Hey everyone, this is Taehyung. It feels strange to say that like this, just sitting here without the lights, without the cameras, without the noise. It's quiet tonight. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your own heartbeat and the thoughts you've been avoiding for too long. I wanted to talk to you before my wedding day comes. Not as V from BTS, not as an artist or a celebrity, but just as Kim Taehyung, a man who has lived a long journey filled with noise, love, confusion, and moments that never made it to the stage. There's something honest I've been meaning to share, not because it's dramatic, but because it's real. You see, when your life belongs to millions of people, it becomes hard to know which version of yourself is truly yours. For years, I was the smiling one, the one who carried warmth, who made people laugh, who seemed untouchable. But behind that smile, I was someone who constantly asked, do they love me or do they love what I represent? I didn't realize how heavy that question had become until I met someone who didn't care about V. She didn't flinch when I told her about my world, the long nights, the loneliness, the expectations. She just looked at me and said, you don't have to perform right now. You can just breathe. And somehow those words hit me harder than any applause ever did. For the first time, I felt like someone saw me as a person, not a symbol, not an idol, not a product. Just a man who gets tired, who doubts himself, who wants to be loved quietly. That's when I started to understand something I had ignored for years. Fame is loud. Love is silent. And silence, when it's real, can heal you. Before this wedding, I've been going through old memories. I watched videos of us on tour, the laughter, the tears, the energy of ARMY screaming our names. And I smiled. I really did. Because those moments were real too. But I realized something important. Those moments belong to V. The man getting married now is Taehyung. It took me years to make peace with that difference. I used to think that being loved by the world meant I didn't need anything else. But love from millions doesn't mean you don't get lonely at night. It doesn't mean you stop craving someone to talk to when the cameras are off. There were nights I'd sit by the window, watching the city lights fade, wondering who I would be when all of this ends. Would people still remember me? Would they still care if I wasn't releasing music or standing under the spotlight? That fear haunted me because when you've lived your entire life being adored, you start to forget how to simply be. Then, one day, she held my hand and said, even if the world forgets you, I won't. It sounds simple, maybe even cliche, but it was enough to make my walls fall. Because sometimes the smallest words carry the deepest truth. That's why this wedding isn't just a celebration. It's a promise to myself, to her, to the person I'm finally allowing myself to be. I know some people might not understand. Some will question, some will speculate, some will feel betrayed. But I can't live trying to please the version of me that only exists online. I want to live as a man who can love fully, who can laugh without thinking about how it'll look in photos, who can cry without worrying if it'll become a headline. I want to be free from the idea that happiness only comes when the world approves of it. And maybe that's what I needed to tell you tonight. Not that I'm leaving anything behind, but that I'm finally stepping into something real. Something fragile, yes, but genuine. I still remember the boy from Daegu who dreamed of singing for people, who promised his parents he'd make them proud. That boy is still inside me, smiling quietly, watching me grow into a man who finally understands what love means. Love isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. And I'm ready to be fully present now in every breath, every silence, every imperfect moment that makes life beautiful. So, before the day comes when I walk down that aisle, I want to thank you not just for cheering for me, but for believing in me even when I didn't know who I was. You've seen me in my best and worst moments. You've watched me laugh, cry, stumble, and rise again. And every piece of that journey led me here to this quiet, peaceful place where I can finally say, I'm happy, not because the world says I should be, but because my heart says it's time. There's more I want to share: the fears, the moments that shaped this decision, and the people who helped me find myself again. But I'll save that for the next part. For now, just know this: Taehyung isn't disappearing. He's just coming home to himself and to love. When I said I'm coming home to myself, I didn't mean it as a poetic line. I meant it literally, because for years I forgot what home truly felt like. Home isn't a place with walls or furniture. It's a feeling, the quiet you get when someone understands you without needing words. For me, I had that with my members. With them, I laughed until my stomach hurt, shared food, shared dreams, shared exhaustion. We grew up together, made mistakes together, and built something that no one can ever take away. But even then, there was always a small emptiness I couldn't describe. When the lights went out after a concert, I would go back to my hotel room and it would be silent. I'd still hear the echo of fans screaming my name, but the sound faded quickly. And the silence that followed was deafening. There were times I tried to fill that silence with music or work or even noise. I'd write lyrics late into the night, not because inspiration struck, but because I didn't want to feel that quiet ache. The truth is, I was scared of being alone with my thoughts. Because when you're alone, you can't hide from yourself. And then uh, she came into my life, not suddenly, not dramatically. It was subtle, like sunlight creeping through the window after a long night. She wasn't trying to impress me. She didn't even care about my fame. She just wanted to know how my day went. And when she saw me tired, she didn't tell me to rest for the sake of my image. She told me to rest because she could see I was human. That was new to me. You might think that with fame comes endless love and attention. But most of the time, it's admiration for the version of you that people imagine, not the real one. She didn't want V. She wanted Taehyung, the one who forgets lyrics, burns toast, laughs too loudly, and sometimes overthinks everything. It was confusing at first. I kept asking myself, why would someone love the parts of me I hide? But that's what love does. It doesn't ask for perfection, it holds space for your chaos. I remember one evening we were sitting in a small cafe, the kind of place no one would expect me to be. No cameras, no stylist, no security, just her and me. 2 cups of warm coffee and the soft jazz song playing in the background. She looked at me and said, Taehyung, when you're quiet, I can hear your heart louder. And that line, it broke me because for years I was told to speak, to perform, to entertain. No one ever told me it was okay to just be. I think that's when I knew I was ready to love for real. Not with conditions, not with image, but with honesty. Now, as the wedding day gets closer, I keep thinking about what love means when you've lived half your life in public. It's strange people see your relationship as a headline, not the heartbeat. They see your happiness as a statement, not a story. And yet, I can't blame them because they only know the part of me that I've shared. But here's what I've learned: love doesn't need to be proven to anyone, it only needs to be protected. And protecting it means knowing when to stay silent, when to walk away from the noise, and when to just hold on tighter. There's a kind of peace I feel now that I never knew before. It's not the kind that comes from applause or success. It's the kind that comes when you wake up next to someone and realize you don't have to try so hard anymore. You can just breathe. Still, I'd be lying if I said I'm not nervous. There's a part of me that's still afraid. Afraid of letting people down. Afraid that some fans will misunderstand or feel like they're losing me. But I want to say this clearly. You're not losing me. You're just seeing me evolve. The love I have for ARMY isn't something that fades because of marriage. If anything, it's grown deeper. Because you taught me what unconditional love feels like, love that doesn't demand, doesn't control, but simply exists. And that kind of love helped me understand how to love someone in real life too. Sometimes I think back to the boy I used to be, the one with messy hair, holding a guitar, sitting in his room dreaming of the stage. If I could talk to him now, I'd tell him, "You'll get everything you dream of. But remember, dreams don't end when you find love. They just change shape." I've realized that life isn't about choosing between passion and peace. It's about finding both the fire that drives you and the calm that grounds you. And for the first time, I feel like I've found that balance. When I see her smile, it's like time slows down. When she laughs, it reminds me that happiness doesn't need to be grand. Sometimes it's in the simplest moments: sharing food, watching the rain, or falling asleep on the couch together after a long day. Those are the moments I used to overlook. Now they're the ones I treasure most. I guess that's what growing up really means: learning that love isn't found in perfection, but in presence. And as I step into this new chapter, that's what I want to carry with me. Not fame, not pressure, just presence. Before I go, I want to say something to those who have supported me all this time. You've seen me evolve from a teenager chasing his dream to a man learning to love. And through every mistake, every tear, every joy, you've stayed. That means more to me than you'll ever know. So, if my wedding day comes and you see photos or headlines, don't think of it as Taehyung saying goodbye. Think of it as him saying, "I finally arrived." There's something about the days leading up to a wedding that makes you think about everything: who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. Lately, I've been remembering moments I haven't thought about in years. Little things that shaped me in ways I didn't realize at the time. I remember being a kid in Daegu, walking home after school with music playing in my headphones. Back then, I didn't know what the future would look like. I just knew I wanted to sing. There was something about music that made me feel understood, even when no one around me really could. It was like a secret friend who listened without judgment. My grandmother used to say, "대융아, Someday your heart will speak louder than your voice. At that time, I didn't know what she meant. Now I do. Because all the fame, all the achievements, they mean nothing if your heart can't rest. And my heart couldn't rest for a long time. People often see the glamour, the awards, the spotlight, the smiles, but they don't see what happens after. They don't see the exhaustion, the self doubt, or the moments when you look in the mirror and ask, who am I when the lights go out? There were times when I'd finish a concert, walk off stage, and feel completely empty, like I had given every piece of myself away. It's a strange thing to have millions of people cheer your name and still feel lonely. But I've learned that loneliness doesn't always mean being alone. Sometimes it's being surrounded by people who only know the version of you that performs. That's why meeting her changed me. She didn't care about the stage version of me, she wanted to know the quiet one. The Taehyung who loves sunsets, who hums random melodies while cooking, who still gets nervous before interviews. She'd listen to me ramble about the most ordinary things and say, I like hearing the real Taehyung talk. And somehow that made me fall even deeper. Before her, I used to chase perfection, the perfect note, the perfect look, the perfect image. But she taught me that perfection is exhausting and peace is rare. One night, I told her how I used to stay up worrying about what people thought of me. She just smiled and said, you don't need to be perfect for the world, just be real for the ones who truly love you. That sentence became my anchor. I think that's why this wedding feels different. It's not about grand gestures or luxury. It's about gratitude for the people who stood by me, for the fans who understood my silence, and for the woman who helped me find my balance again. Sometimes I look at her and think, she met me when I was still figuring myself out. There were times I wasn't easy to love, moments when I pulled away, scared of being vulnerable. But she never walked out. She stayed patiently waiting for me to open up. And I did. Slowly, clumsily, honestly. I told her about my fears, about losing my sense of self, about fans' misunderstanding, about not being enough. And she said something I'll never forget. Taehyung, love doesn't take you away from who you are. It brings you closer to who you've always been. That was the moment I realized love isn't about changing for someone, it's about growing with someone. I've learned that marriage isn't the end of a story, it's the start of a deeper one. The kind where the world doesn't need to watch for it to be meaningful. It's the kind of story that happens in small moments, making breakfast together, sharing silence, watching your dog fall asleep on the couch. It's quiet, but it's real. I used to think love had to be loud, full of passion and drama. But now, I know the quiet kind lasts longer. It's not about constant fireworks, it's about a steady flame that never goes out. And that's what I found. I know some people might feel distant from this side of me. Maybe they'll say I've changed. But isn't that what life is supposed to be? You grow, you learn, you make mistakes, and you start again. The boy who once stood on stage chasing applause has become a man who now finds peace in whispers and soft laughter. And to ARMY, I want to say thank you for allowing me to grow without forcing me to stay the same. You've watched me experiment, fall, rise, and change, yet your love never wavered. That's rare. That's why when I stand at the altar, I'll carry all of you in my heart too. Because you are part of this journey, every concert, every letter, every tear, they all brought me here. I want you to know that this isn't a goodbye to the stage or to you. It's just another chapter one where I get to be more honest, more grounded, more human. Maybe one day, when the noise quiets down, I'll sit with her, turn on one of our old songs, and smile. Because every lyric, every melody, every heartbeat of my career, it was all real. And it led me to this kind of love, the kind that feels like coming home. Before I end this part, I'll share one last thought I've been holding on to. Happiness isn't about everything going right. It's about being able to say, even when things go wrong, I still have peace. And right now, I have that peace. Maybe that's why I wanted to speak like this, not as an idol, but as a man. Because behind every spotlight, there's always a story waiting to be told in the dark. And this is mine. The closer the wedding day gets, the more I find myself slowing down. Not because of fear, but because I finally want to feel everything, every heartbeat, every memory, every little moment that brought me here. These past few weeks have been quiet, almost sacred. I've been waking up early, walking through the garden near my home, letting the morning air remind me of how far I've come. Sometimes I catch myself smiling for no reason, realizing that peace doesn't always come with big achievements. Sometimes it's hidden in small things. When I was younger, I thought happiness came from success, that if I worked hard enough, performed better, smiled wider, I would finally feel complete. But the truth is, success gives you everything except stillness. And stillness is what my heart had been searching for all along. She once told me, Taehyung, life isn't supposed to be a race, it's supposed to be a rhythm. Those words changed me because for so long I ran like I was being chased by time, afraid to slow down, afraid to disappoint, afraid to be forgotten. But now I've learned to walk at my own pace, to breathe without guilt, to exist without performing. I've also been spending a lot of time with my family, my parents, my siblings, the people who've known me before all of this began. We sat around the dinner table the other night, and my mom asked, "Are you nervous?" I smiled and said, "A little." She laughed and told me, "That's good. It means your heart is awake." Her words reminded me that nervousness isn't weakness. It's a sign that something matters deeply to you. And this marriage, it matters. It's not about the ceremony, not about the attention, not even about the pictures people will share. It's about choosing someone every day, even when things aren't perfect. When I first told my parents about her, I was scared. I wasn't sure how they would react or how the world would take it. But my father looked at me and said, "If she makes you peaceful, then you've already made the right choice." That sentence stayed with me because peace is rare. And when you find it in another person, it's something worth protecting with everything you have. There was a time when I thought love had to be dramatic to be real. But now I realize love is in the way she listens when I talk about music. It's in the way she remembers the small details I forget. It's in the silence we share, where no words are needed. That's the kind of love I prayed for without even realizing it. I've also been thinking a lot about ARMY. Sometimes I imagine you watching this, maybe smiling, maybe a little emotional, maybe confused. And I want you to know something very clearly. You've never been replaced. You've been part of my life story, the part that gave me courage to love in the first place. If not for you, I wouldn't have learned how to give my heart so freely. People often ask if marriage changes an artist. Maybe it does, but not in the way people think. It doesn't take away your passion, it deepens it. It gives your art new meaning. Now, when I write music, it's no longer just about longing or dreams, it's about gratitude. It's about finding beauty in the ordinary, in the quiet moments that we often overlook. I've written songs lately that no one has heard yet, songs about mornings filled with laughter, about holding someone's hand while the world sleeps, about finding home in someone's eyes. Maybe one day I'll share them. Or maybe they'll just remain ours private, unpolished, and real. Because not everything needs to be public to be meaningful. Sometimes I still worry, not about fame or career, but about balance, how to protect something pure in a world that loves to watch everything unfold. But she reminds me we don't owe the world our peace, and she's right. For years, I gave every piece of myself to the public, to the stage, to the image people needed me to be. Now, I'm learning that it's okay to keep some parts of myself sacred. There's a moment every night, right before I fall asleep, when I whisper a small prayer of thanks. Not for the success, not for the fame, but for the quiet heartbeat beside me that feels like home. That's what I always wanted, even before I knew it. When I think about the wedding day itself, I don't imagine the lights or the decorations. I imagine standing there, looking at her, and realizing that every step, every mistake, every heartbreak, every lonely night led me here. And in that moment, I'll finally understand why everything happened the way it did. To those who followed my journey, thank you for allowing me to be both an artist and a man, for seeing me not just as someone who sings, but as someone who feels. I know I can't control how people will react to this new chapter. Some will cheer, some will question, some will even feel distant. But love isn't meant to be understood by everyone. It's meant to be lived by the ones who choose it. So if you ever think I've changed, maybe I have, but it's the kind of change that feels like growing, not leaving. Because love doesn't make you smaller, it makes your world wider. And that's what I've found, a wider world full of color, full of peace, full of moments that remind me why I started this journey in the first place. When I look back at the boy I was, I think he'd be proud. Not because I made it big, but because I didn't lose myself trying to please everyone. Because I finally learned that happiness isn't found on the stage. It's found in the spaces between songs, in the people who make the silence feel safe. And maybe that's what this story has always been about. Not about fame or image or perfection, but about finding a place where I can simply be human. As the final days before the wedding draw near, I find myself looking back at the journey with a quiet heart. I used to believe that life would always feel like a performance, that no matter where I went, there would be cameras, expectations, and noise. But lately, I've realized that peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the ability to stay calm within it. And that's exactly what this moment feels like, calm. Even though the world keeps moving fast, my heart has slowed down. It's as if everything I once chased is now standing still, waiting for me to simply be. Sometimes I still wake up in disbelief that I'm here, standing on the edge of a new chapter, about to promise my life to someone who has seen me without the stage lights, without the perfection, without the mask. She knows the version of me that doesn't always smile, the one that sometimes doubts, the one that needs reassurance, and she stays. That's love. Not the kind you read about, the kind you lived through. I've been writing something like a letter to my younger self lately. It's not something I plan to publish. It's just a few words I needed to say to the boy who once felt lost. I wrote, "You did well. You didn't give up when the nights were too long. You didn't let the world harden your heart. You kept believing in something pure even when people told you it was foolish. And because of that, you found it. You found peace." That letter reminded me of how fragile dreams can be and how precious it is when they finally become real. When I think about my wedding day, I don't imagine the applause or the headlines. I imagine the quiet sound of our hands finding each other. That's the kind of memory I want to carry, simple, human, eternal. There's something I've been wanting to say directly to ARMY, from the deepest part of my heart. You've been with me through every high and low, through every era, every storm, every time I felt uncertain. You taught me that love doesn't always come from someone standing next to you. Sometimes it comes from people who cheer for you, even when you can't see them. And that kind of love is forever. So please don't think of this moment as me walking away. It's not an ending, it's a continuation of the same story, just written in a different tone. I'm still Taehyung, still the same soul who laughs too easily, who gets lost in melodies, who loves deeply and quietly. I'm just becoming more of myself. Marriage isn't the end of my journey, it's the grounding of it. It's what allows me to dream bigger, to create from a place that's real. Before, I wrote songs from loneliness. Now, I write from love. And love, when it's real, gives birth to endless inspiration. I hope you'll still listen, not because it's Taehyung from BTS, but because it's Taehyung the human, the man who's learning, who's growing, who's still finding beauty in imperfection. There's a small moment I keep replaying in my mind from our engagement day. It was raining softly, and she reached out to wipe the raindrops from my cheek. And she said, "You don't have to be perfect anymore." Those words felt like freedom, because for so long I didn't know who I was outside of the image. But that day, I realized I don't have to perform love. I just have to live it. Maybe that's what I want you to remember most from all this. No matter who you are or where you are, love doesn't need to look impressive. It just needs to be honest. Whether you're an artist or a fan, a dreamer or a believer, you deserve a love that makes you feel safe to be yourself. I'm grateful for every lesson, every heartbreak, every person who came and went. Because each one prepared me for this moment, the moment I can finally stand still and say, I'm happy. To ARMY, thank you for growing with me, for allowing me to be human, for loving me not just as Taehyung the artist, but as Kim Taehyung, the man who's learning to love truthfully. I hope when you see me smiling on that day, you'll know it's because of you too. You helped me get here. And to her, if you ever hear this, I hope you know you didn't just walk into my life. You walked me home. You made the noise fade. You made me remember what peace feels like. As I prepare to say my vows, I realized that all the words I've ever sung, all the lyrics I've ever written were leading to this moment, the most honest one of all. So, before my wedding day comes, let me say it clearly. Thank you for every moment, every heartbeat, every bit of love that brought me here. I'm ready, not just to get married, but to live fully, humbly, and with gratitude. Maybe one day I'll look back at this video and smile. Because it captured me at a turning point between the man I was and the man I'm becoming. And I'll whisper to that younger version of myself, we made it. To everyone watching, thank you for being part of this journey. And wherever you are, I hope you find the love that makes your soul quiet. Because that's when you'll know it's real. It's quiet now. The rehearsals are done. The venue is empty, waiting for tomorrow, the day that will change everything. And somehow, nothing at all. I'm sitting by the window, watching the lights of the city flicker below. For years, that view was my comfort, the reminder that no matter how lonely things got, the world kept moving. But tonight, it feels different. It feels like the world has slowed down just enough for me to breathe it all in. I can hear my own heartbeat steady and calm. It's strange, I thought I'd be anxious, but I'm not. Maybe because deep down I already made peace with this moment a long time ago. Maybe because I've already lived through the hardest part, learning how to open my heart again. There was a time when I didn't think I could, when love felt like something distant, a story for someone else, but she changed that, not with grand gestures, but with patience. With her quiet way of seeing me when no one else did. Tonight, before I close my eyes, I want to leave something behind, words that I may never say out loud again, but that I hope will stay with you, like a soft echo. When you love someone, truly love them, you stop wanting to be perfect. You just want to be understood. You want to wake up beside them and know that even if the world falls apart, you'll face it together. I used to think love was fireworks, loud, bright, fleeting. But real love, it's like candlelight. It doesn't burn the sky, but it stays. It glows quietly, even in the dark. And that's what she's been for me, my quiet light. Army, I know this part of my life may feel new to you, maybe even unexpected. But I hope when you see me smiling, you remember this is the same smile you helped me find years ago. The same boy, just a little more grown, a little more peaceful. I'll still sing, I'll still tell stories. But maybe now they'll sound a little softer because I'll be singing from a place of love, not longing. And I hope those songs find you when you need them most. If I've learned anything from all of this, it's that love isn't about who stays the longest. It's about who stays when it's hardest. And she did. Through the doubts, the distance, the noise, she stayed. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure she knows what that means to me. Sometimes I think about how strange it is the boy from Daegu who once dreamed of singing to the world, now sitting here writing about love. Maybe this was always the story I was meant to tell. Not just the story of success or fame, but of finding something real amidst all of it. Tomorrow, when I stand there and see her walking toward me, I'll remember everything, the struggles, the sleepless nights, the prayers I whispered when no one was listening. And I'll realize they all led to this one moment where my heart finally finds its home. There's one last thing I want to say before I go, not as an idol, but as Taehyung, a man who's still learning. If you're waiting for love, don't rush it. It's not a performance, it's not something to prove, it's something to grow into. Sometimes love finds you when you stop chasing it, when you start choosing peace over perfection. And when it does, you'll understand why every heartbreak had to happen first.